Thank you. Good evening and half a day. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation and Housing is reconvening on Bill 404-35 from recess on Friday, December 11th. That was a real quick one. Today is Tuesday, December 15th. The time now is 5:05. Welcome to everyone connected by Zoom and those tuning in via television or the YouTube channel. Thank you for your patience and for accommodating the Zoom platform while we maintain social distancing mandates. Notice for these public hearings were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Thursday, December 3rd, and again on Wednesday, December 9th. Notice of reconvening was sent on Monday, December 14th. The bill we'll be talking about today would be bill number 429-35 COR, as introduced by myself, co-sponsored by Speaker Tina Rose Munoz Barnes, Senator Jose Pedro Terlay, and Senator Amanda Shelton. An act to amend Section 1216 of Article 2, Chapter 1, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, relative to authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds of the A.B. Wonpat International Airport Authority, Guam, to refund all or a portion of its outstanding general revenue bonds 2013 Series A, general revenue bonds 2013 Series B, and 2013 Series C, and to authorize further refunding bonds in that fashion. General rules of conduct. The Zoom meeting is hosted by my staff and will mute all Zoom participants until called upon by myself. Members of the committee and or non-committee members wishing to speak may indicate their desire to meet through the in-app chat feature. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by me before speaking and begin by stating their name for record-keeping purposes. When called to speak, please ensure that you are unmuted. Committee members will be allowed to pose a question to an individual testifying. I'll allow any of the senators that are present to pose the question. Questions and testimonies shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the public hearing by my host. Please ensure that your video remains on throughout the hearing. Participants must be visible at all times and not engage in any other activity during the hearing. If you need to get a drink, please feel free to drink. If eating a snack, it's dinner time, I have no problem. Failure to maintain visibility may cause your removal from the meeting live stream. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me. I have Senator Minority Leader Senator Tello Taidegui. I also have in the audience the General Manager, former Senator John Kinata. Thank you, sir, for joining us. To introduce the bill, I will introduce the bill. Bill 429-35. This bill was introduced at the request of the A.B. Wonpat International Airport Authority to assist in their work during these very challenging times when we all know that travelers, both departing and arriving, have come to a near standstill. With the reduction of operating expenses in FY 2020 by nearly 20%, this will allow them to bridge the gap. Kinanta, please.
Sir, Senator, sir, I'm sorry we lost you for a while. All I heard was Kinata, please. We didn't hear your comments before that, but definitely I would like to yield to my chairman to go before me, and then I will put in my testimony after that, and then I will introduce the folks on my finance team here at the airport that is on Zoom at this time. So if we can, Mr. Chair, Mr. Honorable Chairman San Agustin, if I can yield to our chairman of the board to provide his testimony first, and then I will go after him.
John?
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't catch your. I didn't catch what you said.
No problem. What's going on with my computer?
It.
And good evening, everybody. And I'm going to just read verbatim. I believe that you received this testimony in writing, but in the interest of technical difficulties, if we do fall off, I believe that you already have this, but I'll go ahead and read this verbatim. Alpha Day Chairman San Agustin and members of the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing. My name is Brian Bamba, and I am the chairman of the AB WANPAT International Airport Authority Guam, GIAA Board of Directors. I submit this testimony in full support of Bill number 429-35 COR relative to authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds of the AB WANPAT International Airport Authority, Guam, to refund all or a portion of its outstanding general revenue bonds, 2013 Series A, general revenue bonds, 2013 Series B, and 2013 Series C, and to authorize further refunding bonds. The GIA Board of Directors has continued to support the efforts of GIA management in its pursuit of this bond refinancing authorization. Given that the airport faces a precarious situation in the near term due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the entire aviation industry, this proposed legislation will assist the authority in lowering its debt service costs to continue to support the vital functions and services it provides to the traveling community. The board believes that GIA management has done and continues to do its due diligence in ensuring they take every effort to reduce costs without compromising safety and security. This refinancing authorization is another way the airport can not only find some savings in the long term, but also be able to reduce its debt service costs in the near term. The board looks forward to your favorable consideration of Bill 429-35 so that it can assist the airport in navigating through these uncertain times. I thank you again for the opportunity to provide testimony in full support of Bill number 429-35. Councilor Brian Bamba. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bamba. John, if you have the other folks you wanted to be able to testify?
I got myself first, and then after I'm done, I would ask them if they have any testimony, but then I would introduce them from the GIA team. I just see that Lester Carlson, from the director of BBMAR, has signed on, and also, of course, Gita. So after I'm done, I would just introduce the people that are here that are a part of my team, and then yield to the other two directors for them if they have anything. But we'll be ready to take your questions after we're done, I guess. So
all right.
If I could proceed, sir. Thank
yes,
you.
sir. Please do.
Good afternoon or good evening, Chairman San Agustin. Of course, Senator Tello, we thank you for being in attendance for this bill. Half-a-day, Chairman San Agustin and members of the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing. My name is John Kinata, and I am the Executive Manager of the AB WANPAT International Airport Authority, Guam, GIAA. I submit this testimony in full support of Bill 429-35 COR relative to authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds of the AB WANPAT International Airport Authority, Guam, to refund all or a portion of its outstanding general revenue bonds 213 Series A, general revenue bonds 213 Series B, and 213 Series C, and to authorize further refunding bonds. As Guam's only commercial airport, the GIA is the island's economic engine and community lifeline. It is a gateway for tourists to visit our island safely and securely. Since March 2020, the 2019 novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic has drastically affected our airline traffic to the tune of over 90% reduction in passenger movements through the end of fiscal year 2020 and continuing to this day. With such a reduction in passenger movements, there has been a corresponding reduction in airport revenues. in FY 2020, the airport experienced a loss of about 30 million in revenues. The airport did not sit idle as we reduced operating costs by almost 20% in fiscal year 2020, while continuing to implement and cover the costs associated with increased health and safety improvements to address the risks associated with COVID-19. We have implemented thermal screening at our entryways, installed UV lights in all our air handling units, and have installed plexiglass barriers, hand sanitizing stations, and social distancing markers throughout the terminal building. These reduced operating costs were carried out over fiscal year 20 and into fiscal year 2021, and our team continues to find additional ways to reduce costs further. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, which is the CARES Act, provided the airport with approximately $20.7 million in grant funding to cover the airport expenses, and the airport was able to utilize these funds to bridge the gap in fiscal year 2020. This grant also came with an employee retention requirement, given that it was also meant to ensure people are not added to the unemployment rolls. With such effective cost reduction measures in fiscal year 2020, the airport was able to shift about $6 million of our CARES Act funding to fiscal year 2021. But these funds will soon dry up. With such uncertainty in the airport's immediate financial future, we come before this committee in full support of the authorizations provided in Bill 429-35. Bill 429-35 authorizes the GIAA to issue one or more series of general revenue bonds for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of our outstanding general revenue bonds with specific requirements, as is customary in all other prior bond refundings, which includes the requirement that the debt service savings from the issuance of refunding bonds shall not be less than 2% net present value savings. In collaborations with the Guam Economic Development Authority, which is GEDA, we believe that these savings can be achieved given the right market conditions. Additionally, Bill 429-35 provides financial flexibility in a time of severe financial uncertainty for the airport. Through the assistance of GEDA and subject to market conditions, these refinancing authorizations will allow us to maximize the reduction in debt service for fiscal year 2021 and 2022, the most precarious and uncertain times moving forward due to this COVID-19 pandemic. This reduction in debt service costs for the immediate future will allow the airport to plan ahead and adapt to the ever-changing environment and economy which we are currently living. To give us the best possible opportunity to achieve the greatest amount of debt service cost reduction for this fiscal year, I respectfully request the Guam legislature's immediate consideration of this bill. Once again, I thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in full support of Bill 429-35. Tourism is Guam's largest economic sector, and the airport is a vital part of ensuring that our island's economic recovery can occur securely and safely. Sinceramente, John M. Kinata, Executive Manager, Guam International Airport Authority. And like what I said from earlier, I would like to introduce folks on our financial team. And after that, I can yield over to Gita and BBMR if they wanted to say something. But with us today, Mr. Chair and Senator Taidewi, I got our comptroller, Mr. John Rios, our Deputy Executive Manager and lead for the GIA financial team, Dr. Ricky Hernandez. I got Mr. Frank Santos, our consultant for the airport. I got, I don't see her name here. I had Jean Ariola that was on, and she's our airport services manager that was on. I think signing on is also our board of director, Mr. Zenon Bellinger. I think he's there more to observe. Other than that, when you do have further questions, Mr. Chair, any of my team have any comments that they might want to say before I yield over to Gita and BBMR? We're good, sir. We're requesting to yield over to the other two directors or executive managers and director.
Okay, I'll go first. Thank you, Mr. Kanata, and good evening, everybody. BBMR fully supports this measure. We are looking at the airport's ability to leverage favorable market conditions, which we hope present themselves at the time that this financing is pursued, in an effort to be able to gain both short-term through taxable refinancing of existing obligations. But more importantly, the second phase of the authorization would be to allow for a tax-exempt refinancing of both the obligations that were outstanding today and the taxable obligations that would be incurred, so that the airport is able to utilize a financing vehicle to smooth the revenue streams, and more importantly, manage better its debt service, but taking full advantage of the fact that in 2023, when the bonds are again callable, that they can be refinanced at a tax-exempt basis. And I applaud the team for putting together a very comprehensive and long-term financing plan that does have a two-step approach to it. And I believe that this is a very viable approach. There are many components that may be self-evident with the arrival of the vaccine today and our source markets that lend, I think, the finance team's ability to make the proper presentations to investors and secure these bonds, both the taxable and the tax-exempt financings contemplated in Bill 429 to the benefit of the airport, but more importantly, the area that is serviced by GIA in general. Thank you, sir.
All right, now we got Ms. Gita. Ms. Mendiola, you're next. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well, Senator. I'm sure a lot of what I'm going to say is a little bit redundant from what was being said earlier by JQ and company. So nonetheless, we submitted our testimony as well, written. So in the event there's some technical difficulties, you have it on file. And then I'll just go ahead and get started. So Hafaday Senator Joe San Agustin and members of the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing. I'm Mel Mendiola. I'm the GITA Administrator and CEO, and I would like to hear and submit this testimony in full support of Bill 429-35, an act to amend Section 1216 of Article 2, Chapter 1, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, relative to authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds of the AB Wampat International Airport Authority, Guam, to refund all or a portion of its outstanding general revenue bonds, 2013 Series A general revenue bonds, 2013 Series B, and 2013 Series C, and to authorize further refunding bonds. I begin this testimony confirming that Bill 429-35 does not have a direct fiscal impact on the general fund, as the intent is to provide more flexibility for the Guam Airport to manage its financial obligations and maintain financial stability during this challenging pandemic by taking advantage of lower interest rates, as discussed below. The Guam Economic Development Authority, GITA, in its role as the central financial manager and consultant for the government of Guam, monitors and advises the government and its agencies when the market conditions are attractive for a refunding for a bond. The entire municipal market was in turmoil earlier this year due to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, but has since stabilized thanks to the Federal Reserve's actions of keeping the federal funds rate at near zero. Initial readings are now showing that there's an opportunity to refund and restructure a portion of its outstanding bonds and achieve additional savings for the GIAA, something that would be beneficial in keeping afloat during this economic downturn. Last October 2019, the GIAA was able to refinance a portion of the 2013 bonds after similar legislation was authorized. That financing led to the successful sale of 37 million in refunding bonds with a net present value savings of 1 million and an all-in true interest cost of 3.4% and a near-term cash flow relief of 18.5 million over fiscal years 2020 and 2021. The island's tourism industry is struggling to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, and like most tourism-based cities, this industry is at a near standstill today. It will take some time and effort by GITA, the GIAA, and other Guam stakeholders to convince bond analysts and investors that tourism will rebound and that the GIAA bonds will be a secure investment. However, this scenario relies on the immediate passage of this legislation, as it is evidence that the entire government is supportive of the tourism industry of Guam. Note that the airport credits worldwide remain at high risk at most airports, similar to GIAA today. And similar to GIAA today, have been hit by severe passenger declines and a weakened airline industry, pushing airports into a new and challenging operating environment. This severely stressed sector of the US municipal market must now be given full flexibility to reduce its credit risk and to adjust its business model to mitigate the financial pressures in this new and evolving industry. In turn, the bond market's reaction to airport credits has been and remains unpredictable, with yield pricing at a premium, but with airport bonds pricing successfully nonetheless. We strongly believe that bond analysts will see the GIAA financial foundation is still strong and will stand the test of time to survive the pandemic, leading to a successful outcome for the proposed refunding as we turn the corner with the introduction of vaccines and visitors with pent-up demand to return to Guam. Based on various financing structures we've tested, GITA believes that a potentially successful scenario exists in which savings is maximized over the next 2 fiscal years, and GIAA will be able to reduce debt service to accommodate reduced revenues associated with COVID-19 pandemic. If the GIAA is given the flexibility to refund and restructure its outstanding bonds, it could time its entry into the market and achieve net present value savings estimated around 7 million or an approximately 6% savings ratio. This assumes no extension of the current maturity and achieving the standard minimum refunding savings of at least 2%. I understand the hesitancy in light of the passage of in light of the change in the nation's leadership and the uncertainty of Guam's economic recovery, but passing this bill will provide an important tool for the GIAA's continued financial sustainability. Once again, thank you for your opportunity to provide this comment in support of the immediate passage of Bill 429-35. Should you have any questions, please contact us at GITA. Thank you very much.
Okay, I hope everybody can see me now. I mean, now everybody's moving. I see Tina there. Are we good, John?
We're good, my side. If you're referring to John Rios or John Canata.
No, I'm referring to you first because you're the executive.
I'm here, sir.
You're the guy in charge.
We're here.
But anyway, thank you, Ricky, for that statement to go in recess. But I just wanted to state that, number one, the bill is to allow you an opportunity if the timing is right so you can go to the bond. It is not saying you will go to the bond, but if you can, the bill will allow you that. Am I correct? We just want to make sure we're in sync with that.
Ricky, you're on. Yes, yes, sir. That is the intent.
Okay, thank you. Now, Senator Tello, did you have any questions you want to pose to all the fine folks here? Because these are all the money people here for the airport and BBMR and Gita.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. And good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, everyone. And hi, Tina. Good to see you as always. So, I have a question with regards to the balance of the current bond obligations and what percentage of GIAA's budget is reserved for debt services annually. Maybe that will go to John Rios or the money man, or
I'm sorry, Senator, can you
I'll
repeat
repeat
that?
it.
What
Sure.
percentage?
Yeah, it's so basically, what is the balance of the current bond obligations and what percentage of GIAA's budget is reserved for debt services annually?
Okay, and so I think Tina would have the current balance, which is about 170 million approximately. And currently we are setting aside about 13 million for debt service.
Okay.
And that's based on the 2019 refund restructure that we did just last year.
Right. That was Public Law 35-33 that was enacted in September 14th, 2019. Correct, John? Are you referring to that?
I believe so, Senator.
Okay, thank you, because I do see that legislation up. And with revenue significantly impacted due to COVID-19, has GIA experienced challenges meeting any of its financial responsibilities, including bond obligations, vendor payments, personal compensation and benefits, etc.?
So one of the things that the board had directed management to do in the beginning of the calendar year when the pandemic started, and we saw a drop on employment, is that they basically had us tighten our belts, review our expenditures and see areas that we could cut without jeopardizing the safety and security of the airport. So the answer is we will probably end the fiscal year 20 with a debt service coverage about 1.5 times.
Mm.
So we did have our challenges, but with the cuts that we made, in addition to the CARES Act relief, we were able to make do with fiscal year 20.
I'm sorry, John, you mentioned you think you've end this with 1.5 million times? What is
1.5 times? That's a number that is determined on how much you can cover your debt service payment.
Okay.
So if our debt service is 1 million and our net revenues is 1,500,000, then that means we're able to cover our debt service 1.5 times.
Okay. Okay, does GIA plan on using any portion of the revenue? This, I guess, John, this goes to you as a director. Does GIA plan on using any portion of the bond revenues for operations or personnel?
Yes, so we're looking at that as far as the revenues are the savings that we have or what we're going to generate. We'll look at the overall operational costs, and wherever that we can put that cost at, yes, we will be flexible to that.
Okay, so so operations and personnel will be used with this bond.
Well, just realize on personnel costs, we have frozen all vacancies. And we're only looking at for any ones that any hiring that it has to deal with public safety and security for the airport. So for example, our airport police, our firefighting units, and our airport operations. Those are the priorities right now. All other vacancies have since been frozen since the beginning of this pandemic. That's where our cost cutting measures have come into play.
May I also add too, Senator? And thanks for the question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. I also wanted to add that it's just in relation to the question. So the bond savings that we're hoping for obviously is going to be over time, and I think there was an estimate that Gita had announced at around $7 million over the life of the bond net present value. So we won't see that necessarily immediately, but if those savings are realized up front, or if we're able to restructure the bond and lower our debt service, we're just hoping to lower the costs at least for this fiscal year or next fiscal year, and in hopes to ensure that we match our revenues with our costs. And so because the uncertainty this fiscal year, doing some level of restructuring of our debt service payments, if we do or are able to reduce it this fiscal year through this refinancing, then we hope that level of cost reduction will hopefully at least partially cover the level of revenue reduction. So we may not necessarily see any immediate cash flow savings. And so we're hoping that in next fiscal year 22, if and when we do realize some debt service cost reductions in 22, that maybe there will be some cash flow savings, but that's only if we actually collect the revenue to cover that debt service. And so as it relates to if there is savings, I think that obviously we have to work with the board as well as our team to work on the budget for that. But the uncertainty, at least for this fiscal year 2021, we hope to just lower our costs more than we've done so now through lowering debt service. And if revenues are still not coming in at that cost reduction level, obviously we'll be looking at other avenues to try to make that work.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez, for that answer or response. It's always when you speak about it, it's always easier to understand, simplify it. Thank you so much for that. What federal COVID assistance funds have you been given to GIA, and how much longer will federal resources support the airport?
If I could take that, Mr. Executive Manager. Yeah, so we received $20.7 million in coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security, or CARES Act funding, which was provided through the FAA. And it was done via an allocation formula, and we received about $20.7 million. Because of our ability to, and the board's direction to reduce cost, I think the executive manager in his testimony mentioned we reduced cost about 20%. And that was starting in March. And so that was a 20% reduction starting in nearly the middle of the fiscal year. We were able to just use 16 million of that 20 million. I'm sorry, 14 million of it. And we were able to push 6 million of that to this fiscal year, which we're still drawing down. I think, John Rios, if I'm not mistaken, we have about 3 million remaining to spend on that. But I will note, and I think the executive manager did mention that with this funding, and it doesn't expire on December 30th, right? But I believe we might be using up the drawdowns on that by the calendar year end. But it does come with an employee retention requirement of, I believe, 90%. And the intent was to ensure that jobs are actually saved. And I think that was the intent of that employee retention requirement. And we've been meeting that and all the other requirements for those funds.
Dr. Hernandez, other than that, with the FAA's funding of 20.7 million, anything else you're getting from local or the CARES Act funding here on Guam?
Not at the moment, but we are looking forward to, obviously there's some discussion in Congress related to relief packages all across the spectrum, and included in that, we're tracking that there possibly will be some airport relief. What the allocation is, how that formula is going to be put together is still unknown, but we're hoping that we're not relying on it, but we're hoping that that does come through. That gives us a little bit more flexibility for to manage the uncertainty in the economy.
Okay. Well, going forward, the assurance or additional support. Well, what assurance or additional support does GIAA anticipate receiving from federal government to help deal with the financial issues, to face the public health emergency? I think you've answered that with just the anticipation of hoping another, stimulus, Pat. Well, I don't call it stimulus. I think a stimulus is everyone getting their check for, but CARES Act money to assist. I think that's pretty much it, trying to understand the climate over there at GIAA. I know it's very difficult right now. Oh yeah, there was one. With regards to the airport's participation in those who are arriving with regards to quarantine, and then as well as using certain facilities, or is that all done through GIAA, or are you receiving assistance from the National Guard still, or what? Are you still receiving that kind of assistance from National Guard and Public Health, or are you forking out everything on the cost on these quarantine when people arrive to place them into quarantine?
Senator, as far as
John, you went to mute. Hit the mute, John. Yeah. Try again. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Now. Okay, so as far as the processing of arriving passengers at the airport, what the airport is pushing out, or at least giving, is we have the facilities. We have folks that can man as far as our airport police and stuff. But as far as manning of the airport, the National Guard, the quarantine facilities, the public health folks that are working there, those are all on the on other funding not coming from the airport. So,
Okay.
so definitely the airport is not paying for any of those operations.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for answering my questions. Appreciate it. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all you. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Same to you, Senator. Be safe.
Same here.
And thank you, Senator Tello. Can everybody still hear me and see me? Make sure I'm not frozen again.
Yes,
so
sir.
So far, so good. I was just only concerned that we make sure that we try to figure out a way how to get this out of the legislature and into you guys' hands and Gita. I'll work that out with Senator Tello. Senator Tello, I think we've been running ourselves to the ground, and it's almost Christmas. We need to figure out how to get to Christmas, but we need to take care of you folks also. So that being said, unless anybody would like to say anything else in reference to this bill, testify. And thank you, Mr. Bamba, the chairman of the board. I guess I get in and out here on this one, and I see everybody else here. Senator Tello, go for it.
Thank you. If I missed it, I apologize. But Tina, how soon would you? I mean, is the climate, in other words, in the market right now, important in this month of December? Is it, or in January? Can you kind of give me the what month are you trying to look at, trying to get this out as soon as possible? I know, but the climate.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Senator. We are, according to federal tax law, we are able to refinance bonds 10 years after the bonds had originally floated is our call date. And federal tax law allows us to be able to refinance it 3 months before that. So the earliest we can refinance these bonds are February 2021.
Okay.
And so between February 2021 through May, we'll have the ability to refinance. And as far as the economic climate, with the vaccine now becoming available, there is a little bit more optimism with investors. And so where these credits were a bit challenging in the past month, now that FDA has approved it and it's rolling out, there's more optimism. And so we feel pretty good that we would be able to achieve the minimum savings that we are quoting.
Okay, so yeah, and I think, we're in December right now, and as the vaccine is rolling out, there's some look of stability, everywhere as it hits these different countries. But you mentioned as long as we can get this bill passed by maybe, before May is what you said. I wanted to.
No.
John is like, no.
No. No, what I said is federal tax law allows us to refinance it 3 months before the call date of May. And so the reason why we're asking for the legislature's look now is that we need to start working with our market partners. We need to start our outreach to them. We need to talk to the rating agencies. And so we need to start that conversation, especially now with what we hope will be the start of the recovery and the end of the pandemic on our economy. So thank you for letting me clear that out.
Okay, I really appreciate that. It's very important to find out how soon we have to get. Okay, thank you, Tina. Thank you.
Okay.
Senator, if
All
I could
right,
just
folks.
add
And I'm happy that was said.
This
Is
is a
that Mr.
cost-cutting
Bamba?
exercise.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Unmute again.
Mute.
One more time, sir.
This was an opportunity for us to realize savings. And so given the climate, the sooner that we can realize those savings with the uncertainty around revenues, that's what we were really shooting for, was the ability for us to take things that are within our control and affect them as soon as possible. So, any help with the savings is what we're looking for.
And Mr. Chair, may I just add one last thing? And Lester and Tina,
Yes, Doc.
obviously, with their experience in this, know a lot better. But in terms of the timing, I mean, it takes several weeks, right, just to do the back work before we actually go and sell. And so, given the season and the time frame, holiday season, it might, working through January with the authority in hand will let us achieve that proper time frame as early as we can and as close as we can to if it's February or early January. So I think that the immediacy of the authorization allows us to kind of kickstart some of the planning and all that.
Yes, I concur with Ricky's comments. I think the ask of everybody is for the bill to be passed as soon as possible. Therefore, all of the local prerequisites are taken care of, and as Tina mentioned, there can be a concerted effort with the legislature's authorization to now run this down. And as Chairman Bamba said, with the intent to realize the savings and maximize those savings.
All right. I've got the message. I'm just going to let you all know. I'm going to try my best to convince my colleagues like Senator Tello, and if we can get this, the key here is just trying to convince my colleagues that this will be the only bill. So we go in and out and be done with it. And Tello is going to look at me and says, we can only pray that it's the only bill, only one bill. And why? Because this is critical. This is to make sure that the airport gets all the benefit it can get. And it's able to have that flexibility. And I see where Gita's coming from. And Dr. Art, Dr. Ricky knows what we have to deal with. He was over here before. But that being said, John, I will reach out. We're going to wrap this one up. We're going to wrap this hearing up. There's no other individuals to testify. And I would just ask that the committee will continue. I'm going to close. Okay. So just basically telling you, I want to close this and be able to ask for testimonies. And today is what's the day? The 15th? I give it 2 days. By Friday or Thursday, whatever's in my hands, we're going to wrap up the bill and then see what is the temperature with the colleagues, so we can come in and hopefully I can convince everybody, one bill, let's do this and let's get in and get out, because it's Christmas. And we want to make sure that the airport doesn't miss Christmas in January, okay? Kind of like, That being said, I will continue to receive testimony by committee up to December 17, the latest. And if you can, submit your testimony to the mailroom of the Guam Legislature or through email at Senator Joe S. Augustine at gmail.com. And again, I want to thank everyone for attending the public hearing and for providing feedback and suggestions. The public hearing is now adjourned. The time now is 5:52. Jesus Masi. Folks, stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, and practice social distancing. And if we don't meet, Merry Christmas. But I have a feeling we're going to meet. Thank you. Take care.